Hey everyone, welcome back. It's 2022. This is my first interview, franchisor interview in my series for the year. If this is your first one, my name is John Anderson, franchise consultant to the stars. I'm kidding. You can find me at ThatFranchiseGuy.com though. And of course, you're probably watching this on LinkedIn or my YouTube channel. But anyway, enough about me. Today, I'm here to welcome Eric Wheeler, Director of Franchise Recruitment for Just Love Coffee. And before I have you introduce yourself, Eric, I do want to show I have the
That's right.
brand mug, and I am
Get
drinking.
Your Love.
I'm finishing up the coffee from Christmas with the Fa La 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 brand. I want to get the proper number of laws in there.
Is it 5 laws or 4 laws? I don't know.
That's right. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 laws. So Fa
4
La
laws.
La La.
There you go.
Awesome
That's
coffee
awesome.
though, and obviously we'll talk about that at some point here. But yeah, please introduce yourself, a little bit about you and the brand, maybe a 30-second overview on Just Love Coffee.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, John, thank you for inviting me to the first one of 2022. I was waiting for streamers or balloons or something to drop from the ceiling. Honestly, I was looking up like, yeah, so my name's Eric Wheeler. I'm the Director of Franchise Recruitment, like John had said. I've been with Just Love Coffee now for just over 2 years. I've really enjoyed my time with these guys. It's a good group. I mean, the executive team is very strong, probably over 175 years of experience in franchising. And the brand, as we'll dive into here shortly, is really poised and positioned to, in my opinion, explode onto the scene, so to speak, because we are, just getting traction right now. Really started offering franchises in 2018. So coffee and food, it's a good combo.
Absolutely. And there's so much to be excited about with the Just Love Coffee brand and the people. I'm not quite sure where to start, but and hopefully we can fit it all in. And actually part of the purpose of this, for those of you watching, if we don't get it all in, which we probably won't, reach out to me and obviously we can educate you further. So, but maybe start with the culture of the company. I think to me, that's something really refreshing, the approach that the founders took to just creating not just the brand, but really the culture is the way to describe it. It goes way beyond the numbers.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to talk about the culture without really understanding our story.
Okay,
So let me give you a little bit of a backstory. So Rob Webb is the founder of Just Love Coffee. He and his wife Emily really had it on their heart, to adopt 2 beautiful little girls from Ethiopia. And so that was kind of the start of everything. And before, Rob's got a big heart. I can't say enough good things about Rob. He's had a heart for the homeless community in Nashville, even started a GoFundMe page, no lie, week before last to raise some funds to help those guys out. But he was going down there prior to adopting his little girls. But what happened was it was on their heart to adopt these kids from Ethiopia. And in the process, realizing how expensive it was to actually adopt, Rob felt like he wanted to help families raise money for adoption. And so in that process, he goes, you know what I would want to do if I was going to raise funds, I would want to do it online. And I would want to be able to just do more of a fulfillment type setup. And so Just Love Coffee was, at one point, it was an online only coffee roaster where a family would go online, justlovecoffee.com, register their family there's a fundraiser link. You can still do it today. But you go click fundraise, you sign up your family. It would be justlovecoffee.com/Wheeler family, for example. And every bag of coffee that was sold through that link, the family would get back $5 towards their adoption. And so that was totally where it started. And from the grassroots of what that was, people started finding the location in an industrial building, believe it or not, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And started coming in off the streets and asking them for coffee. So that's kind of where the culture was laid. So I can build off of that, or which direction do you want me to go from there, John?
Yeah, no, I think, number one, thank you for that, because you're right. It absolutely doesn't make as much sense without the backstory. As an aside, it's definitely a nice bonus for anybody who wants to come visit the home office or goes through training. They get to go to Nashville, Tennessee. Not a bad place, not a bad place by any stretch. So, but yeah, maybe it just kind of take us forward now a little bit about how how that positioning and that passion became the culture of the brand, really, in franchising.
Yeah, no, that's good. Again, I could
Oh,
go
and
100 different directions on stories and all sorts of fun stuff.
well,
But
and let me add to have and maybe tie that into the the type of franchise candidate that you're looking, or the type of franchisee, how they fit into that as well.
sure, I think it boils down to our core values,
Mhm.
and you'll see that throughout the process of learning about our program, learning about our systems, meeting our team, and that's really how we hire employees, not just at the home office, but we actually encourage our franchisees to hire through the filter of our core values. Our core values are be genuine, be excellent, and be a catalyst for love. And so when you can implement those core values into how you are, really living your life in your business. Obviously, you can work on your business or in your business. There's a big difference there. But it definitely shows to the staff, to the clientele, to the community. And on the culture front, that's really how we position ourselves in locations that we go into. We actually look at these as community spots. And so there are all sorts of fun things that we do to make them look like the community that they're in, aesthetics, we can talk through some menu items that we can switch up and sort of that sort of thing. But basically, want it to become the community spot. And when you're going out into the community, I always say it's the Zig Ziglar approach. You help enough people get what they want, and in the end, you get what you want. And that's really what we've seen is when you love people well, they'll bring people to you, and they're going to patronize your place. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the tactic that we use.
Well, and I love that, and I think that, at least from conversations we've had in the past, it's pretty clear that people who go forward, resonate with those values. If you've
Mhm.
got to go out and represent those values in your community and live them, you better be genuine about it, right?
Right, right. Well, you can't you can't really have a grumpy barista with a name like Just Love. It doesn't quite fit.
Right.
So it
That,
doesn't make for the right experience.
absolutely. Um, so in positioning the brand, I mean, obviously it's a cafe style.
Hmm.
I know that some of the hot growth maybe is in these drive-through things, but to me, that's, there's some money in drive-through, but it doesn't really reflect. I mean, you can't really build a culture around,
Right.
it's a, you're a community-based coffee cafe, correct? I mean,
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
and
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I'll hop in there real quick. So we really just started developing drive-through, but when you say drive-through, we don't currently have a drive-through only model, though that's been talked about, not because it's a money driver, although obviously there's revenues there, but more so because people are still in the mindset of a convenience. And so if given the opportunity to go and get premium coffee, and we can talk through signature coffees and all that fun stuff too, but if given the option, I would choose obviously a Just Love over whoever it is.
yeah,
Um, Primarily because I know the heart behind what we're doing.
yeah,
And we have different, for example, I'll throw this out there real quick. We have 6 different national nonprofits that we've actually partnered with, and we actually have 6 different coffees that align with each one of those nonprofits, and they're called cause coffees. And so you're going to have a teacher's blend, a veterans blend,
mm,
a first responders blend, a special needs blend, an adoption blend, and forgive me, I'm trying to blank on the 6th. But the point is that when our franchisees buy that specific coffee from home office, we will give a portion of our proceeds to that national nonprofit. And then if the franchisee chooses to partner with a local nonprofit that aligns with that specific cause, they too can then give a portion of whatever they want back to. It's not required. But the
yeah,
point is, when given the option, if you could come to a Just Love and that's a portion of your, you know, what you're buying is actually going to something good or someone else. I just feel like there's something that endears them to the brand, and
yeah.
so there really is buy-in from the communities and from the cities, etc. So it just kind of grows from there.
So I want to come back to the franchisee part in a minute and talk about the day in the life of what they could expect as an owner. So I don't want to forget
Sure.
that. But I think
Okay.
where we're going right now is really good to talk about some of the other things that differentiate the brand, and being a part of the community is huge, and the vibe, and maybe it's another way of saying culture, but vibe is kind of hip. So
Sure.
but one of the things that I think is genius, I definitely wanted you to talk about, is the way that they've figured out how to extend their day from beyond just mornings with the food offerings, and doing it in a fashion that doesn't involve the supersized kitchen. So talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you
Yeah.
introduce it. I don't even want to say the word. I'll let you introduce the
That's
food
funny.
prep.
That's funny. Well, let's talk about what we have going on. So we've got really the mix is coffee and food. And so I'll touch on coffee, because that's kind of where most people are like, oh, you're just like, every other coffee shop. So let's talk about some differentiators on that first. So for those of you who don't know, coffee is, there's so much science that goes into coffee before it gets to your cup that John's drinking out of right now. You're talking sunlight, the shade, the soil, the flora, the side of the mountain it's growing on, where it's at in accordance, relation to the equator. There's so many factors that go in to actually getting that bean to taste a certain way, and then the process in which they actually get that bean from the tree, whether it's washed, unwashed. I'm not going to go into all the science on that, but there is definitely a process. And so what you have is basically you have your mainstream guys, I would say, in coffee, which are more of your mass producers. They're the guys, you could probably list them off, but it's more a commodity for them, and it's convenience. And then you have on the other end, you have the premium coffees, or the signature coffees, or specialty. And that's essentially where Just Love is. And what we're seeing is that coffee is actually graded. I don't know if maybe we talked about this, John, I can't remember, but coffee is actually graded like wine. And so you have a 1 to 100, obviously a 91 point bottle of wine would be a pretty good glass of wine. The same thing with coffee. Anything over an 80 is considered a specialty coffee. Well, we're actually importing our beans from Ethiopia, Honduras, Rwanda, Colombia, Guatemala, and some various other places, getting it into Middle Tennessee, and it's coming in between 81 and 84, and then our roasting process actually improves that score. So we are bringing what is considered actually specialty coffee. And so that by itself should stand alone. So our coffee is totally fine. We can go right across the street from whomever and do just fine on our coffee. But if you threw us up on a board and said, hey, look, what do all these guys do?
Yeah.
We all do coffee. In my opinion, we do ours better, but we all do coffee. So where do we really differentiate ourselves? It's going to be the food program. The food program is very robust. It is it's very unique, and we could go through the history on how it came about, but the down and dirty is we cook everything in a waffle iron. So waffle irons.
That to me was
mean,
genius. And I know there's some videos on the website and then stuff that we can get into, but and it's obviously not waffles. There's so much more to it. So anyway, go ahead.
Sure.
I just think it's amazing.
No, it's pretty ingenious. I wish I could take credit for it, but it's definitely Rob and the other parts of the team. But it's pretty impressive. Waffle irons are extremely efficient. You're talking about a 2-minute cook time. Actually, it is 2 minutes cook time. But what the waffle iron does is that you're right. It does eliminate the need for all of the extra equipment in the kitchen. So you don't need a huge hood system, which means you're not putting huge holes in the roof. You don't have roof penetration. So landlords are like, yay, we appreciate you guys. So plus it saves you, I don't even know what they cost now, hood system, 40, 50 grand probably on the initial construction. You don't need giant grease traps. You are dealing with pre-cooked food, so you don't have a lot of cross-contamination because you're not dealing with raw chicken. So it just really makes for a clean, simple, efficient style of cooking. And honestly, I don't want to say anybody can do it, but anybody can do it. They had I haven't shared this with anybody. Right. Yeah, we had a meeting here last week, and they said, "Hey, Eric," because we had our assistant was out and somebody else was out, and they're like, "Hey, Eric, did you mind?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So they threw me in the kitchen with these waffle irons. I was like, "I don't do this," but I figured it out. It was really easy. It tastes great. So, but you're right. It's like a glorified panini press. So, for those of you who think waffle iron is default to waffles, you can literally throw anything in a waffle iron. We're talking wraps, sandwiches. We have a bacon tater waffle, which is bacon bits, tater tots, and cheese. A chicken dipper, which is a biscuit dough wrapped around a chicken tender thrown in there. We've got jive turkey wraps. We've got, it's just amazing and robust. And so what we've seen is, getting back to the differentiator, food is actually driving beverage sales. And
Mhm.
it's not the other way around. Whereas most people kind of think, well, coffee, that's got to be the driver. Well, it is, in the sense of, yeah, there's a lot of transactions that go on that's just coffee. But whereas most of everybody else out there is looking at coffee to really drive their sales, and that's why they got to do this, coffee, $4 to $7, probably average ticket. It puts our ticket range in the average of between 12.50 and 13.50, which is really strong. And then in addition to 60% of our total sales and gross sales is actually from the food, which is unheard of in the coffee world. So I
Very
think most of
interesting.
your guys are probably, I don't know, 12, 15%, if they're
Yeah,
crushing it, 20%. So we're really kind of out there by ourselves.
absolutely. Well, I love, the hand roasted, small batch coffee, the whole thing there. There's not a lot of you guys playing in that space. Just by coincidence, I'm kind of a wine guy and a coffee guy. I play
Oh, there you
on
go.
both sides. So I
Yeah.
totally get your analogy.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not, there's at least one certain competitor known for really over roasting. I mean, these just almost scorched flavors.
Who are you talking about, John?
we
Just kidding.
Yeah, that's right. And I love coffee. I've tried them all, and everybody's got their own preferences, right? But I think it's a really nice spot for what you guys do with the quality, and certainly significantly above your convenience store coffees and a lot of the other chains that are a little more concerned about making fruity drinks or smoothies or
Right.
something.
Right. Well, I think you touched on really why we were intentional on where we position ourselves. What you have in the coffee world is you have oh, look at that. I had something pop up on my screen. Perfect. You have your mainstream guys, I would say, kind of on one
Mhm.
end of the echelon, and then you have your purists. And so if you walked in over here to your purists and you said, hey, I'd like a cup of coffee, and you asked for cream, I mean, they're the guys that are like, just get out of here. You're not even going to drink my coffee. You're like, I just want some coffee. So your purists are telling you to leave if you ask for cream. And then on the other side, if you come in and you want, let's say you go to one of these guys and you ask for a Frappuccino, they'll do that all day, but these guys poo-poo these guys over here. So what
Yeah.
we've done is we really positioned ourselves in the middle, whereby we can appease the purist. If somebody comes in and says, hey, I want an unwashed single origin Ethiopian Yirgacheffe pour over black, we can do that. But at the same time, if they came in and they did want a latte, we can do that too. And so what Rob refers to as, we've really created a multi-generational cafe where anybody from
Mhm.
age 5 to grandparent can find something that they'd like on the food menu, as well as something on the drink menu too. And on the smoothies front, we can do smoothies too. We have some of our stores that offer that, and that would fall into some different menu stuff. I'm happy to jump into kind of how we do that as well.
Sure. Well, I think, we could spend a couple hours if we wanted to really dive
Sure.
into everything. I think the important takeaway for this conversation for people is to know that there's flexibility, and it's a partnership, right?
Right.
This isn't a franchise that's going to be and again, will remain nameless, but a dictatorship kind of an opportunity. So,
Right.
um, maybe as we move towards wrapping up, let's talk a little bit about the franchise even the candidate, in terms of what can they
Okay.
expect to do in two ways to answer this. Number one, in a day-to-day operator, or if they're looking at it more as, I'd really like to keep my day job and get this business built, and what we call semi-absentee, although the viewer may not know that term yet. um, can they do it either way, and what does their daily activities in each scenario look like?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. The short answer is that we have people do it both of those ways. Just really depends on what you're wanting to do and envisioning. So we do have, and I won't, for the sake of FDD's change, we do have a
Mhm.
management salary budgeted
Mhm.
into the actual numbers that, if you talk to us and you want to get to an FDD, we could do that, franchise disclosure document. But so as far as like a day-to-day, let's just talk about somebody who would kind of go in and this is what they're transitioning into, and that's going to be kind of a full-time gig.
Right.
Kevin Bowerly is our VP of franchise development. He's been with the brand for over 9 years, and he's an incredible leader. He's been in franchising for over 20. He really says it best, and I had briefly alluded to it earlier, but you really want to work on your business, not in your business.
Mhm.
It's not cost effective or efficient to send home your $12 an hour dishwasher so that you can save a little bit on labor. It's going to be much more cost effective to get out in the communities, shake hands and kiss babies, maybe not in this, environment right now, but, really give coffees out, love on people, help people understand who you are and where you are, and really kind of grow rapport in the community so that you can kind of drive people in. And I mean, you're not going to like flip a switch and see everybody just pile in. You might do that, but a lot of it's going to be networking and just building relationships in the community, and then obviously building a team.
Yeah.
So yes, there's some obviously grind in the sense of you are going to have to obviously do some book work and things, but we help you set all that stuff up, inventories and all that fun things. But you can monitor everything now on your phone. So, and it's remote. So there's a couple different things. Obviously you'll go into the store, you can do some stuff there, but then a lot of stuff is going to be outside, and then just making sure you're bringing the right people in. As far as if you were more positioning yourself as an absentee or a semi-absentee, we do have some guys who've done that too, where they're more the investor type role, and then they've brought in one specifically that I can think of, hired a Chick-fil-A manager and put him up over it, and basically now he's got a managing partner, and it's its own entity. And yes, he works on some things, but he's not the guy there. And then obviously a mix of any of those. In fact, we've got a discovery day this Saturday, which discovery days when people come to town and visit us and the roaster, etc. And the team and support staff. But his plan is he's working remote, and so he's just going to work in the office on his computer, make his phone calls, and then go check on the staff. And so there are some of those that happen too. So there's it's a really good mix, and I think depending on what your goals are, there's a way to structure it in such a way to help you achieve that.
Awesome. So I've got two more questions.
Sure.
One would be, well, let's talk about support first, and then we'll talk about how would somebody get started. But
Okay.
so people come to us in franchising, generically, because they want that plan. They want, hey, give me a plan. I want to go execute it. At least most of them do, and they don't want to recreate the wheel. So, what can a franchisee with Just Love Coffee expect in terms of support and training and those kind of things?
That's great. I hate to call it a business in a box, but a good franchisor should be worth their weight in gold. And the reality is, regardless of what the royalties are, and again, we can talk through those, but I probably won't say them because it changes with the FDD annually, or might stay the same for a couple of years. But the reality is, any piece of the equation that you would need to start your business, we have a plan for, and something, somebody's here to help you. For example, from day one, we have a project manager who kicks in, and you're going to have probably 200 steps to get your store open. Some are on us, some are on you. Within a couple days, maybe within the week, the real estate team's already engaging you to understand where it is that you're wanting to go. Obviously, we have territories defined. Yeah. But they're going to start to scrub the market, and they've already done some tentative research because they know that in most cases that somebody's coming on board. But by that, I mean, they're going to call everybody and their mom that has property that could potentially support a Just Love Coffee, turn over every stone. They're going to be along for the entire ride there. They're going to help you put a letter of intent together, negotiate the whole thing, square footage, tenant improvement dollars, free rent. So that's that piece. Once a letter of intent is executed, then you've got obviously some architect stuff that we've got a gentleman that we utilize for that'll design that specific space for you and to reflect the community. Next box would be contractor steps in. We've got Mike Huff is the director of, oh my gosh, contracting. I'm not sure what the term is, but director of contract. Anyway, his job is to oversee bids. And so at the end of the day, can I use who I want? Yes. The short answer is you can use whoever you want. The reality is that he's probably got over 20 years of doing general contracting and can look at a bid and tell you what it's missing. So the goal is to use the expertise. So contract starts going, construction, then we've got obviously the ordering of the pieces and training. We've got all that. We've been bundling now. I don't know if you're aware of that, John, but we're finally at that size where we can order 5 stores at a time. which is actually saving our franchisees about 30 grand on equipment, on startup costs right now. So our buying power is obviously very strong. And then obviously training, we have them come in town for 12 days, train here. They can stay as long as they want. We don't ever charge for training. And then our team will obviously go out to help them open the store. They're usually there for a soft opening, grand opening, social media. I'm looking at the gal out there, but she kicks in. She's there to help you, set up your social media accounts and your marketing campaign, post-marketing campaign. We've got the whole system.
Awesome.
An ops team and everybody else is there for you, vendor relationships. So the list goes on, man. It's a big list.
No, and that's huge. And it's often, even I had it almost as the last question, but it shouldn't be. It's something that people should be looking at in their franchise evaluation very, very early in the process. And, obviously there are costs to getting into any franchise, the royalty you mentioned, the brand fund, marketing fund, everybody's got their own. And I always counsel people, say, that's part of your investment. If you're looking at the return and you want to go cheap, go open up your own fill in the blank sandwich shop,
Sure.
maid's place, coffee place, and you can save some money, but your return is going to be equivalent generally.
Right. I would agree with that.
And so, you should be able to evaluate a franchise and the scalability and the growth that you can expect after paying your expenses, and go in with the business plan with the expectation that you're doing significantly more with the synergy and the partnership of a franchise than you'd be doing on your own.
Right.
Faster and more in the long run, even to the point of an exit strategy where you want to sell your business. So with all that in mind, I guess the last thing I'd finish with is, what does somebody, take to get started? And obviously, if you really want just questions, if you want to take this conversation deeper, reach out to me, ThatFranchiseGuy.com. You can do it here on LinkedIn, if that's where you're watching it, and we'll have a conversation first, and then we'll pull in Eric and get you in the process if it's a fit for you to discover more. But let's take that. So the next step, assuming they like it, what does it take for them to get started?
Sorry, I have my COO poking his head in here. Hey, I'm on a Zoom recording. I'll talk to you in a minute. Sorry.
It's like live TV. I love it.
That just happened.
That's right.
What does it take to get started? So we've got two models right now. One would be your inline store. And so you're looking at, obviously you've got an inline store, or you'd have an in-cap unit with a drive up. And honestly, I tend to encourage people to look more at that, only because right now it just makes a lot of sense. But your inline stores are probably around 375,000 total, all in. And that's not there's not any gotchas or added-ons or anything. That's what we're seeing. If you add a drive-through, you're probably going to add about $50,000 to $75,000, and so you're looking at about $425,000 to $450,000. So normally I give candidates a range of between $400,000 and $500,000, just because it's safe. That's going to be before tenant improvement dollars, money that we can get back to you based on negotiations with real estate. So that's a side note. But $400,000 to $500,000 is pretty safe. Most folks are going through the SBA right now, as you're probably well aware, but the SBA will typically want about 20% owner's equity or cash injection. So you're probably going to look at a capital outlay of between $80,000 and $100,000. That said, they probably will want to see $135,000 liquid, and then a net worth of 350 plus, and then the credit score, you got me. I don't know. That's a moving target. So, but those are the high level parameters for you.
Yeah. And then, for reference, we are sitting here January 2022. And to your point, a lot of these things do change over time, depending on how far down the road somebody's watching this.
Right.
And so, and just as a point of clarification, because there's so much information on the internet, I always counsel my folks that I work with, this is your bottom line item 7 number, right? So that $400,000 to $500,000 is everything, including your working capital, your marketing expense, your first and last, construction, obviously, everything, correct?
Yeah, that's and again, that's the average. I'm sure you have some outliers, because I'm trying to actually think what the number is. I think it's 333.5 to whatever the number is, mid 500s or 6 or something. But average is between 400 and 500. That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And again, for those of you watching, the biggest variations typically come from what does that real estate look like when you acquire it? Obviously, if you're buying it, it's not leasing, it's way beyond anything we're talking about. And I don't even know if you've had any of those, but depending on the condition of the building and what the landlord is willing to help you and do the construction, take some of that expense for you. You could have $100,000 variation, from one side to the other. So very easily.
Yeah.
But anyway, that gives some people an idea of what they might need to have or be able to get access to in order to get started with this. So I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on? Any question that's important that somebody who's considering a business and potentially a business in coffee, would need to know about Just Love Coffee?
Closing remarks first. Thank you again for inviting me to do this with you. I'm appreciative for the opportunity. Honestly, for us, we are so about culture. I want to emphasize that because I have a lot of people, phone call one and I'm like, you're not jiving with us, buddy. And I call it the sniff test. I'm the sniff test, but the reality is somebody on my team will discover that. And that's really what keeps the brand healthy. And that really comes again from Rob. And we really hold our culture at the highest level of just making sure we keep that safe. And so just from a security aspect, I just want to reemphasize, we really are trying to grow a brand. I mean, we talk people down from doing, we've had people want to do over 10 units and we're talking them down because we want to make sure it's the right fit. So anyway, just if that's any kind of consolation or comfort to those people that are looking at this, that's just kind of our heart on things. So just want to make sure I emphasize that.
Well, I think it's important. I think it's important for both. If somebody's just purely about the numbers and they don't really have that, and I don't want to say passion for coffee, but that passion for life,
Right.
Then it's, there's other things in franchising for those people to look at.
Sure.
The flip side, I think, for the people who do have that match to your culture and that passion for life and happiness and love, I think it's great for them to know they're protected, that they're not, that people who come in, their peers are going to be of the same mindset. So
correct. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Definitely appreciate it again. We ran a little longer than I thought, but there was so much to talk about, as I talked about in the beginning. So
thank you.
At this point, if you're watching and you'd like more information on Just Love Coffee, again, please reach out to me, John Anderson, ThatFranchiseGuy.com, and we'll have a conversation and see what you think. So appreciate it again, Eric. And,
awesome. Thank you, sir.
Look forward to talking more about Just Love Coffee.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.